It's time for the Glendale Devotional Podcast, a 5-minute weekday devotional ministry from Glendale Baptist Church in Glen, Mississippi. The speaker is John Haynes. Now, here is Brother John.
We continue to look at a portion of the life and times of Moses. We're drawing near to the end of our study for now. We'll have one more devotion from the life of Moses tomorrow. Now, in a few weeks, I plan to pick up here with the account of Moses as he confronted Pharaoh in Egypt. But for today, allow me to read what might seem to be a strange verse from the book of Exodus. I'll read from Exodus chapter 4, verse 24. And it came to pass on the way at the encampment that the Lord met him and sought to kill him. After all that God had done to protect him and preserve him and to call him, why would God seek to kill Moses? Let's review for a moment. When the parents of Moses, Jochebed and Amram, found out that they were expecting their third child, it was during a terrible time for Hebrew boys. The Pharaoh had ordered that all male Hebrews be cast into the river in an effort to slow down the Hebrew population. God raised up 2 God-fearing midwives who protected the Hebrew boys. Jochebed, Moses' mother, placed him in a basket, a woven raft, with the express purpose of Pharaoh's daughter finding the baby. Hopefully this king's daughter would have empathy and pity on this helpless baby. Sure enough, she drew him out of the water and named him Moses. In God's providence, Moses' mother nursed him, and Moses was reared in the home of Pharaoh. Moses made some mistakes. He fled from Egypt, and he started a family in the area of Midian, and became a shepherd to the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. God called to Moses from a burning bush and commissioned him to return to Egypt and speak to the new Pharaoh about letting the Hebrew people escape slavery and worship God in the wilderness. All those who had wanted to kill Moses because of his prior mistakes were now dead. After trying to get out of it, Moses agreed. Now, we have this seemingly odd-placed verse that God met Moses on the journey and sought to kill him. At first glance, it doesn't add up. But if we were to look at the next couple of verses, we get an idea of what was going on. Verses 25 and 26 say, Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at Moses' feet, and said, Surely you are a husband of blood to me. So he let him go. Then she said, You are a husband of blood because of the circumcision. Now, we have to go even further back in history. God commanded circumcision for the Hebrew men. This was a sign of the covenant with him for the Jewish people. Even though Jethro, his family, and the people of Midian were descendants of Abraham and his wife Keturah, and they were monotheistic, that is, they worshiped the one true God, the son of Moses and his wife Zipporah did not circumcise their son at 8 days after birth as God had commanded. The custom of Egypt, where Moses was reared, was for boys to be circumcised at age 14 as a sign of becoming a man. But God's commandment pointed to the spiritual, the covenant between God and the Hebrew nation. If Moses was going to lead the Hebrew people, and he agreed to do that, then God needed to address some smaller issues and commandments that the family had forsaken. This explains why God sought to kill Moses. Perhaps Moses became deathly sick. However, as God sought to kill Moses, Zipporah saw what was happening, and she circumcised her son right then and there. Zipporah actually saved her husband from death. This is the reason she said, You are a husband of blood. Moses was so close to death, and yet his life was spared when obedience to God occurred. It causes us to remember that God is looking not just at the big areas of obedience in our lives, but he searches out the hidden things as well. God is purifying his people. He did then, and he does today. 1 Samuel 15:22 tells us, To obey is better than sacrifice. Let's you and I think about that today and be completely obedient to the Lord today. Hey, thanks for listening. Join us tomorrow, right here. Have a good and godly day.
Thank you for listening each afternoon at 12:05 on Fun 91 for the Glendale Devotional Podcast, presented by Glendale Baptist Church. Their mailing address is P.O. Box 70, Glen, Mississippi 38846.